This is The Heart of the Matter, a journal of Jewish discovery. I'm Aaron Cohen, executive editor of JUF News. Welcome. Come, let's explore the realm of thought, ideas, and action. During my career writing about the Jewish world, I've traveled and met many people who've distilled their life experiences and studies, and who passionately endeavor to make personal statements that inspire. They create significant and beautiful features on the landscape of the unfolding Jewish experience. Today, I'd like you to meet Rabbi Asher Lopatin and artist Chana Zelig, two Chicagoans who've drawn on the well of ancient wisdom to create new realities. First, let's welcome Rabbi Asher Lopatin, spiritual leader of Anshe Sholom Bnei Yisrael congregation, a modern Orthodox synagogue in Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood. I first met Asher thanks to the Wexner Heritage Foundation. He's a well-known and beloved spiritual leader who's built a vibrant and diverse community. With his wife Rachel, their 4 children, other members of the Lakeview community, and like-minded Jews from Israel and around the world, Rabbi Lopatin plans to build a pluralistic and diverse community in Israel's Negev desert in the summer of 2011. Asher, Baruch haba.
Baruch hanimtza.
Welcome. So when did this idea first strike you that you wanted to build a new community?
I think actually when I was chosen to be the rabbi of Anshe Shalom, this was in 1994, 95, I was still in Israel finishing up rabbinical school, and I remember going for some walks to lunch, back from lunch, and saying, you know, I'm so excited to be starting out in a synagogue in Chicago, but I want that to be a model for what I can do in Israel. And one day I want to get back to Israel, be a rabbi in Israel, and put everything I've learned in Chicago into a community in Israel.
Did you have the sense right away after coming to Chicago or even before that you would find like-minded people who would really want to be on board with this concept?
No, I think it took some time and it took some prodding. My good friend Rabbi Jay Moses, I had a column with him. He's a Reform rabbi in Lakeview, also at Temple Shalom, and we had a discussion of Zionism. And in the column, I remember he said, you know, well, if you're such a Zionist, Asher, then when are you moving to Israel? So at that point I said, okay, in 10 years I'm going to take my family to Israel. By the way, I did speak to Rachel, my wife, before we got married. She disputes what our resolution was, but we did talk about the possibility of Aliyah. And so that really pushed me further.
You know, I'm glad you used the Z word, Zionism, because this is a concept that I think is almost wholly and completely in the general public misunderstood to mean something that it's not. It really is something that I would like for you to try and define for us now. What do you see Zionism being, and how is the plan that you have related to the essence of what Zionism is?
Aaron, I would say that Zionism, certainly in the 20th century, has really meant going from the love of Israel that our people have always had to putting into practicality, into reality, concretizing it by actually going to Israel and being there. And Jews saying, you know what, we can actually live there, we can build our state here, we don't just have to dream about it. So making the dream a reality. But in the 21st century, I feel that Zionism is also taking the ideas that we've learned in Galut, in the diaspora, for me in Chicago and Lakeview, and saying, you know, we can take these ideas and Israel can use some of these ideas, whether it's pluralism, whether it's the centrality of community, whether it's the role the rabbi can play in building community. These are ideas that I feel that through Zionism, I can say I'm coming from Chicago to Israel and making them a reality.
So how do you balance this reference to, you know, that which is ancient in the tradition with a vision for what a future Judaism and Jewish experience should be?
I think a lot of it, if not all of it, comes from my experience in Chicago and Lakeview, where as a modern Orthodox rabbi, I saw that you can really apply some of these ancient concepts, whether it's Jewish law, the law of the Sabbath, building an Eruv, whether it's Jewish ritual law and building a mikvah, whether it's the Torah and, thank God, helping to found a day school, the Chicago Jewish Day School that puts that Torah into practice. I was encouraged to see that these ancient, age-old Jewish ideas can really be part of a contemporary Jewish community. And that gave me a lot of confidence that the same thing can happen to Israel, even though on the surface it might seem that pluralism and diversity are challenged and there's a lot of polarization. But the encouragement that I got throughout the 15 years that I've been in Chicago so far has given me the strength and encouragement that we can really do it in Israel also.
Yeah. One concept that I think, well, maybe it's going to be difficult for you to speak about because I'm going to talk about this concept very much in relationship to you in your personality. I think what it takes to bridge people who come from very different Jewish backgrounds, who have different experiences, practices, and expectations, requires unique leadership. And that's where, it's probably a terrible thing to ask somebody who really is a leader to reflect on what you think, your own leadership style is, or what you bring to the table that you think can create the proper chemistry to bridge those different ideas and expectations within one community.
Aaron, I've always gotten energy by being with people who are diverse. From my days at Hillel at Boston University or in Oxford at the Jewish Society, I've just gotten excitement out of being with Jews, different types of Jews coming together, whether it's on Shabbat, whether it's for some pro-Israel program, whatever it is. And I've gotten a thrill out of that. So I don't even see that necessarily as leadership. That's sort of the stuff that sustains me. I do think that leadership and the Wexner model is about taking risks. And I think that sometimes you're right, to bridge gaps. I know as an Orthodox Jew, you have to take some risks to connect with Reform and conservative Reconstructionists and people who are unaffiliated. That does take some risks, and you have to sort of leap off maybe a more secure ground. So I think that I've tried to do that, but I've always found that so rewarding and strengthening. And I found the Chicago community very receptive. And I think when it comes to community and synagogue life, it's really about wanting people to take ownership of the community. And when we welcome them to our house, we want to really make them feel that they belong to the community and that they're critical to the community and that the community is built up of those individuals. It really shouldn't be about Rachel and me, and I'm very proud that we can model, but it's got to be about other people saying, we're going to host and we're going to welcome people. And when a stranger comes to Kiddush, and it comes to sort of a meal that we have after synagogue, that people go up to them and that they make them feel a sense of belonging. So it might start with Rachel and me, but I think it's got to continue with everyone else in the community.